poor mechanic, a broken-down car, and a woman who wasn't supposed to need saving. When LeBron stopped to help her, he didn't know the truth, that the stranger with the flat tire was a billionaire CEO hiding from her own empire. What started with a simple act of kindness would change both their lives forever. Welcome back, my wonderful family and friends. If you're tuned in and ready to dive into today's story, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and drop a comment letting me know where you're watching from. Tomorrow, I'll be bringing you another exciting story you definitely don't want to miss. So, let's get started. The apartment smelled like burnt rice and hope. LeBron stood over the stove, stirring what was left of dinner. A thin soup stretched to feed two. His hands, calloused and scarred from double shifts at the construction site, moved with the mechanical precision of a man who'd learned to make nothing look like something. The pot was small, the portions smaller. "Daddy, is it ready?" Zoe's voice cut through the silence, sweet and oblivious. She sat at their rickety table, coloring with crayons worn down to nubs, her 7-year-old imagination turning blank paper into castles. LeBron looked at her and felt his chest tighten. She had her mother's eyes, dark, curious, full of a light he'd spent 3 years trying to keep alive. "Almost baby girl," he said, forcing a smile. On the counter sat an envelope. Red letters screamed final notice. LeBron had stopped opening them 2 weeks ago. Rent was due. The electricity bill was overdue. Zoe needed new shoes. Her toes were pressing against the worn fabric of her sneakers. He'd seen it this morning and said nothing. He ladled soup into 2 bowls, giving Zoe the larger portion. She didn't notice. She never did. "Daddy, can we get ice cream tomorrow?" LeBron's throat thickened. "We'll see, Zoe." She smiled, satisfied with the non-answer, and dug in. He watched her eat, his own bowl untouched. A photo on the shelf caught his eye, him younger, laughing, arms wrapped around a woman with a radiant smile. His late wife, Keisha. 3 years gone. Cancer had taken her, and the medical bills had taken everything else. He was invisible now, a ghost in a world that didn't see men like him. Men who worked themselves to the bone and still came up short. Men who loved their daughters more than life itself but couldn't afford to prove it. "Daddy, you're not eating." "I'm not hungry, baby." Zoe frowned but didn't push. She was too young to understand hunger, too innocent to know her father went without so she wouldn't have to. LeBron's phone buzzed. A text from his boss. "Can't give you tomorrow's shift. Slow week." His jaw clenched. That was $60 he couldn't lose. He stood, kissed Zoe's forehead, and grabbed his keys. "Finish your soup. I'll be back soon." 300 miles away, Maria Langston sat in a glass tower, surrounded by men in expensive suits. "The numbers don't lie, Ms. Langston. We're projecting a 22% increase in Q4. Projections aren't results." Maria cut in, her voice sharp as a blade. "I want guarantees, not optimism." The room fell silent. They always did. Maria had built Langston Enterprises from nothing, a single tech startup in her garage to a billion-dollar empire. She was 38, ruthless, and untouchable. Forbes called her a visionary. Her rivals called her ice. The meeting ended. Handshakes, fake smiles, hollow congratulations. Maria walked to her car, a sleek black Mercedes, and exhaled. Her phone buzzed. A text from her assistant. Reminder, dinner with the Harrisons tonight. She deleted it. The Harrisons were investors, not friends. No one was a friend. Maria had learned that lesson the hard way. Trust was a luxury she couldn't afford. She drove through the city, away from the glass and steel, into unfamiliar territory. The GPS rerouted her through a stretch of desolate highway as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in bruised purples and dying gold. Then pop. The car lurched. Maria's hands tightened on the wheel as the Mercedes limped to the shoulder. She stepped out, her Louboutins crunching on gravel, and stared at the flat tire. Damn it! The road was empty, silent. For the first time in years, Maria felt small. Then headlights appeared in the distance. What would you do if you were stranded on an empty road? Would you trust a stranger's help? Drop your thoughts below. I'd love to hear your take. LeBron saw the car first. A black Mercedes tilted awkwardly on the shoulder, hazard lights blinking like a distress signal. He almost drove past. Almost. His tank was near empty, Zoe was asleep in the back seat, and he had no business stopping for someone who could probably afford a tow truck with pocket change. But Keisha's voice echoed in his head, soft and insistent. Do what's right, baby, even when it costs you. He sighed and pulled over. Maria stood beside her car, arms crossed, staring at the flat tire like she could will it to reinflate. She didn't hear him approach until his shadow fell across the gravel. Excuse me, ma'am. You need help. She turned sharply, her walls snapping into place. He was tall, broad-shouldered, wearing a faded jacket and boots caked in dried mud. His face was kind but tired, etched with the kind of exhaustion that came from surviving, not living. I'm fine, she said automatically. I've called for assistance. LeBron nodded toward the empty road. Out here? You'll be waiting a while. Maria hesitated. Her phone had 1 bar of signal, and the tow company had put her on hold twice. She glanced at his truck. Old, dented, a child's car seat visible in the back. He didn't look like a threat. He looked like someone who'd been forgotten by the world. Same as this road. I don't want to trouble you, she said, softer now. No trouble. LeBron was already kneeling beside the tire, inspecting it. You got a spare? I think so. In the trunk. He popped the trunk, found the spare and the jack, and got to work. Maria watched him, unnerved by the silence. Most men would have asked questions, made small talk, angled for something. He didn't. He just worked, his hands moving with quiet efficiency. What's your name? She finally asked. LeBron. LeBron, she repeated, testing it. I'm Maria. He nodded but didn't look up. The lug nuts were rusted. He grunted as he loosened them. Maria noticed his knuckles, split and scarred. She noticed the way his jacket hung loose on his frame, like he'd lost weight he couldn't afford to lose. You do this often? Stop for strangers. LeBron paused, wiping sweat from his brow. Not really, but my little girl's in the car. Figured I'd want someone to stop for us if we were stuck. Maria glanced at the truck. Through the window, she saw a small face pressed against the glass, wide-eyed and curious. A little girl, maybe 6 or 7, clutching a stuffed animal. Something cracked inside Maria's chest. She's beautiful, Maria said quietly. She's everything, LeBron replied, and the weight in his voice made Maria look away. 20 minutes later, the spare was on. LeBron stood, dusting off his hands. Should get you where you're going. But get it looked at soon. Spare's not meant for long drives. Maria reached for her purse. Let me pay you, please. No need. I insist. LeBron met her eyes then, really looked at her, and she felt exposed under his gaze, like he could see past the designer clothes and the armor she wore. You don't owe me anything. Why? The question slipped out before she could stop it. Why help me? LeBron shrugged, a sad smile tugging at his lips. Because somebody should. He turned to leave, and Maria felt panic rise in her throat. An unfamiliar sensation. Wait. He stopped. Thank you, she said, and meant it more than she'd meant anything in years. LeBron nodded. Drive safe, Maria. He climbed into his truck, and Maria watched him disappear into the night. She stood there for a long moment, her hand pressed to her chest, feeling her heart beat in a way it hadn't in years. She didn't even know his last name, but she couldn't stop thinking about his hands, his voice, the way he'd said somebody should. Like kindness was a duty, not a transaction. She got in her car and drove toward the city, but her mind stayed on that desolate road. And in his truck, LeBron glanced at Zoe in the rearview mirror, still asleep, and wondered why the woman's sad eyes haunted him. Two strangers. One moment, everything about to change. LeBron woke to the sound of Zoe coughing. It was still dark outside, that dead hour between night and morning when the world held its breath. He stumbled to her room, finding her curled beneath a thin blanket, her small body shaking. Hey, baby girl, he whispered, pressing his palm to her forehead. Hot. Too hot. My throat hurts, Daddy. His stomach dropped. Zoe hadn't been sick in months, and back then, the clinic visit had cost him a week's groceries. He glanced at his phone. 4:47 a.m. His shift started at 6. If he missed it, they'd give it to someone else. If he didn't take Zoe to the doctor, he made her tea with the last honey packet, tucked her back in, and promised he'd be home by lunch. The lie tasted bitter. At the construction site, his mind wandered. He mixed cement on autopilot, his hands doing the work while his thoughts drifted to the woman from last night. Maria. He didn't know why he couldn't shake her. Maybe it was the loneliness in her eyes, so different from his own but somehow identical. Maybe it was the way she'd said, "Thank you," like the word surprised even her. Forget it, he told himself. Women like that don't think twice about men like you. His foreman shouted something. LeBron nodded without hearing it. By noon, his phone buzzed Zoe's school. She had a fever. Could he pick her up? He left early, sacrificing 4 hours of pay. Maria sat in her corner office, 53 floors above the city, staring at a contract she couldn't focus on. Numbers blurred. Clauses tangled. Her mind kept replaying the previous night. The stranger's quiet strength. The way he'd refused payment like money was an insult. She'd built her empire on reading people, on identifying angles and leverage. But LeBron had no angle. He'd helped her because it was right, and that terrified her more than any hostile takeover. Ms. Langston, her assistant, Jeremy, stood in the doorway, tablet in hand. The Zhao meeting is in 15 minutes. Cancel it. But, cancel it. Jeremy retreated. Maria stood, pacing to the window. The city sprawled beneath her. Millions of people, all strangers, all transactional. She'd convinced herself that was safety. Connection was weakness. Vulnerability was suicide in her world. So why couldn't she stop thinking about a man whose name she barely knew? She pulled out her phone and did something reckless. She opened her company's security app, the one that accessed traffic cameras, license plate databases, resources she'd acquired through corporate partnerships. She shouldn't. This was invasive, obsessive, wrong. She typed in a location and timestamp from last night. His license plate appeared. Then a name, LeBron Matthews. She stared at it, her finger hovering over the search button. One click and she'd know everything, his address, his history, his credit score. But something stopped her. If she did this, she'd prove him right, that people like her only saw people like him as data points. She locked her phone and threw it on the desk. "Damn it," she whispered. But that evening, as she drove home through streets she normally avoided, she found herself taking the same route. Past the desolate highway. Past the spot where he'd changed her tire. She didn't know what she was looking for. Closure, maybe, or confirmation that the encounter had been nothing special. She ended up in a working-class neighborhood, the kind her board members would clutch their pearls over. Small houses with chain-link fences. Street lights flickering. A diner on the corner called Rosie's, its neon sign buzzing. She parked across the street and sat there, feeling foolish. Then she saw him. LeBron emerged from the diner, wearing an apron, looking even more exhausted than the night before. A little girl held his hand, the same one from the truck. His daughter. They walked slowly, her leaning against him, and Maria saw him scoop her up when she stumbled, cradling her like she was made of glass. Maria's throat tightened. She watched them disappear around a corner, and something inside her shifted. A wall cracking, light seeping through. She started her car and drove away, but the image followed her. A father carrying his sick daughter through a neighborhood that had forgotten them both. She told herself to let it go. She told herself this was foolish. But the next morning, Maria found herself pulling up Rosie's diner on her GPS. And this time she didn't drive away. The bell above Rosie's diner chimed as Maria pushed through the door. She dressed down. Jeans, a simple blouse, sunglasses perched on her head. No jewelry, no armor. She felt naked without it, exposed in a way boardrooms never made her feel. The diner smelled like coffee and bacon grease, the kind of place where regulars knew each other's names and strangers were noticed. She chose a corner booth and picked up a laminated menu, pretending to study it. "Be right with you, Han." Maria looked up. A waitress, 60-something, kind eyes, name tag reading Rosie, bustled past with a pot of coffee. Behind the counter, through the kitchen window, Maria saw him. LeBron. He was cooking, flipping eggs with practiced efficiency, his face drawn with concentration. He hadn't seen her yet. Maria's heart hammered in a way that had nothing to do with caffeine. "What are you doing?" she asked herself. "This is insane." But she stayed. Rosie returned. "What can I get you? Sugar? Just coffee. Black. And pancakes." Coming right up. Minutes crawled. Maria watched LeBron work, noticed the way he wiped his brow with the back of his wrist, the way his shoulders sagged when he thought no one was looking. Then Rosie called out, "LeBron, order up for table 6. He emerged from the kitchen, plate in hand, and froze when he saw her. Recognition flickered across his face. Confusion, then something else. Surprise, maybe, or suspicion. He approached slowly, setting the plate down. "Maria." "Hi." Her voice came out smaller than intended. "Didn't expect to see you here." His tone was careful, neutral. "I was in the neighborhood." The lie hung between them, obvious and awkward. LeBron glanced around the diner, the peeling wallpaper, the cracked vinyl seats. "Long way from your neighborhood. I'm guessing." She deserved that. "I wanted to thank you properly. You left before I could." "I told you." "I know what you told me." Maria leaned forward. "But you helped me, and I'd like to do something for you. Please." LeBron's jaw tightened. Pride wrestled with necessity, and Maria saw both battles play out in real time. "I don't need charity." "It's not charity. It's gratitude." "Same thing when the difference between us is this big." He held his hands apart, indicating an ocean. Maria flinched. "You don't know anything about me. I know you drive a $70,000 car and I can barely keep gas in my truck. I know you probably spent more on those jeans than I make in a month. So yeah, I know enough." The words stung because they were true, but Maria pressed on. "Your daughter. I saw her last night. In your truck." LeBron's expression shifted, protective, guarded. "What about her? She's sick, isn't she? I saw you carrying her yesterday." His silence was confirmation. "Let me help," Maria said softly. "Not because I pity you, because someone should." She threw his own words back at him and watched them land. LeBron exhaled, his defenses wavering. "Why do you care?" "I don't know," Maria admitted, and it was the most honest she'd been in years. "But I do." Rosie appeared, refilling Maria's coffee. "LeBron, your break started 5 minutes ago. Go sit down before I fire you." He hesitated, then slid into the booth across from Maria. The proximity felt charged, dangerous. "Her name's Zoe," LeBron said finally. "She's 7. Had a fever yesterday. I couldn't afford to miss work, so I gave her medicine and hoped it would pass. And today, better, but barely." His voice cracked. "I'm terrified every time she gets sick. One bad illness, one hospital visit, and we're done. I can't lose her." Maria reached across the table before she could stop herself, her hand covering his. His skin was rough, warm. He stared at their joined hands like he'd forgotten what touch felt like. "You won't," Maria said. "Let me help with her medical bills. Please. No strings. Just let me do this." LeBron's eyes glistened. "Why?" "Because last night, you made me feel human again." The confession tumbled out. "I haven't felt that in a long time." The diner noise faded. Clinking dishes, murmured conversations. It was just them, two people from impossible worlds, sitting in a cracked vinyl booth, holding onto each other like lifelines. "Okay," LeBron whispered, "but not just money. If you want to help Zoe, then meet her. Spend time with her. She's been asking about the pretty lady from Daddy's truck." Maria's breath caught. "She remembers me? She sees everything." LeBron's smile was sad and beautiful. "Gets that from her mama. I'd love to meet her. Properly. I mean, Saturday. There's a park near my place. 1 o'clock. Nothing fancy. Nothing fancy, Maria agreed. LeBron stood, reluctant to break the connection. I have to get back. I'll be there Saturday. He nodded and walked away, but twice he looked back, and both times Maria was still watching. Rosie slid into the booth, grinning. That man hasn't smiled like that in 3 years, honey. Whatever you're doing, keep doing it. Maria left a $100 bill for a $10 meal and walked out into the sunlight, feeling something she'd thought died years ago. Hope. Saturday arrived wrapped in golden sunlight and nerves Maria hadn't felt since her first board presentation. She changed outfits 4 times, finally settling on jeans and a soft sweater. Casual, approachable, nothing that screamed billionaire. She pulled into the park at 12:55 p.m., hands gripping the steering wheel as doubt crept in. What am I doing? I run a company. I negotiate billion-dollar deals. Why am I terrified of a 7-year-old? Then she saw them. LeBron sat on a bench, Zoe beside him, her legs swinging, not quite reaching the ground. She wore a pink jacket 2 sizes too big and light-up sneakers that had seen better days. When LeBron spotted Maria's car, he stood, and Zoe's head whipped around, eyes wide with recognition. That's her, Daddy. The pretty lady. Maria's heart melted. She approached slowly, suddenly aware of how out of place she felt. But Zoe launched off the bench and ran to her, stopping just short, suddenly shy. Hi, Zoe whispered. Maria knelt down to her level. Hi, Zoe. Your dad told me about you. He says you're pretty amazing. Zoe giggled, glancing back at LeBron. Daddy says you helped us. He helped me first, Maria said. I had a flat tire, and your dad saved me. Daddy's good at fixing things. Zoe's voice dropped to a conspiratorial whisper. But he can't fix my Barbies when their heads fall off. Maria laughed. A real laugh that surprised even her. That's a very specific skill. They walked to the playground. Zoe ran ahead, her energy boundless despite her recent illness. LeBron and Maria followed, a careful distance between them that felt both necessary and painful. She's beautiful, Maria said. She's my reason for everything. LeBron's voice was thick. After Keisha died, Zoe was all I had left. Some days, she's the only reason I get out of bed. Maria heard the weight behind the words. Keisha was your wife? LeBron nodded, watching Zoe climb the monkey bars. 3 years ago. Cancer. We fought it for 18 months, surgeries, chemo, radiation. Sold everything we had. Borrowed from everyone. It still wasn't enough. He paused, jaw clenched. She died on a Tuesday. I remember because Zoe had a ballet recital that Saturday. And Keisha made me promise I'd take her. So I did. I sat there, watching my daughter dance, pretending my world hadn't just collapsed. Maria's throat constricted. LeBron. The bills buried us. Hospital debt, funeral costs. I lost our house 6 months later. We've been in that apartment ever since. Barely keeping the lights on, praying nothing breaks because I can't afford to fix it. He finally looked at her, eyes raw. You asked why I helped you? Because Keisha taught me that kindness is free. It's the only thing I have left to give. Tears slipped down Maria's cheeks before she could stop them. She wiped them quickly, but LeBron had already seen. I'm sorry, she whispered. I'm so sorry. Don't be. I'm still here. Zoe's still here. We're surviving. You're more than surviving. You're raising an incredible little girl. You're showing up every day even when it breaks you. That's not survival, that's strength. LeBron's lip trembled. No one had called him strong in years. He'd heard struggling, barely making it, poor man, but never strong. Maria took a breath. Can I tell you something? Yeah. I haven't cried in 4 years. Not at funerals, not at failures, not even when I lost people I thought mattered. She watched Zoe spin on the merry-go-round, squealing with delight. I built my company from nothing. Started in my garage with maxed-out credit cards and a dream everyone said was stupid. I clawed my way up, made enemies, lost friends, lost myself. Really. And when I finally made it, when I had everything I thought I wanted, I realized I had nothing that mattered. LeBron turned to her fully. What do you mean? I mean, I'm lonely, LeBron. I have a penthouse I don't come home to. Friends who only call when they need something. A company full of people who fear me more than they respect me. I've spent years building walls so high that no one can climb them. And then you. Her voice broke. You changed my tire and refused payment and looked at me like I was just a person. Not a CEO. Not a target. Just Maria. You are just Maria, LeBron said softly. Not to most people. They sat on the bench, shoulders almost touching. Zoe ran over, breathless. Miss Maria, can you push me on the swings? I'd love to. For the next hour, Maria pushed Zoe on swings, helped her across the balance beam, and sat in the sandbox building lopsided castles. LeBron watched, seeing his daughter laugh in a way she hadn't since Keisha died. And he saw Maria transform, the armor falling away, revealing someone vulnerable, playful, real. When the sun started dipping, Zoe yawned against LeBron's shoulder. Daddy, can Miss Maria come home with us? LeBron and Maria locked eyes. The question hung between them, weighted with possibility. Maybe next time, baby girl, LeBron said gently. But as they walked to their cars, Maria grabbed his hand. Thank you for today, for letting me in. Thank you for seeing us, LeBron replied. And in that moment, two broken people recognized each other's cracks and realized they might fit together perfectly. Have you ever met someone who changed your perspective on life in just one conversation? Tell me your story in the comments. I love hearing these moments. The following weeks blurred into a routine neither of them had planned but both desperately needed. Maria started showing up at the park every Saturday. Then Saturdays became Saturday and Wednesday evenings. Then she was texting LeBron during her lunch breaks, asking how Zoe's day at school went, sending pictures of ridiculous things she saw in meetings. An executive's toupee, a typo in $1 million contract that read public relations as pubic relations. LeBron found himself smiling at his phone like a teenager. One evening, Maria arrived at their apartment with groceries. Not charity, she insisted, just extras from a delivery mistake. LeBron knew it was a lie but didn't have the strength to refuse. They cooked together, Maria chopping vegetables with the precision of someone who'd YouTubed how to dice an onion that afternoon. LeBron guiding her hands, laughing when she nearly sliced her finger. I run a $1 billion company but can't cut a tomato, Maria muttered. Different skill sets, LeBron teased, his hand lingering over hers a moment too long. Zoe sat at the table, coloring, occasionally looking up at them with a knowing smile that was far too wise for 7 years old. After dinner, they settled on the worn couch, Zoe between them, fighting sleep as they watched an animated movie she'd seen a dozen times. Halfway through, she curled into Maria's lap, her small fingers clutching Maria's sweater. She never does this with strangers, LeBron whispered, his voice thick. Maybe I'm not a stranger anymore, Maria replied, stroking Zoe's hair. When Zoe finally fell asleep, LeBron carried her to bed. Maria stood in the doorway, watching him tuck the blanket around his daughter, kiss her forehead, whisper something Maria couldn't hear. When he returned, his eyes were glossy. She asked me tonight if you were going to be her new mommy. Maria's breath caught. What did you say? I told her I didn't know, but that I hoped so. LeBron stepped closer, vulnerability radiating from him. Maria, I don't know what this is. I don't know how someone like you ends up in my life. But I know that when you're here, I feel less broken. Zoe lights up when she sees you. And He stopped, struggling with words he'd buried for 3 years. I haven't felt this way since Keisha. And it terrifies me. Maria stood, closing the distance between them. It terrifies me too. I've spent my entire adult life avoiding this connection, vulnerability, the risk of losing someone. But, LeBron, when I'm with you and Zoe, I feel like I'm home. And I haven't felt that in, maybe ever. You have everything. Why would you want this? Want us? Because everything means nothing without someone to share it with. Maria's hand found his cheek, rough with stubble. You make me feel human. Zoe makes me feel needed. Not for what I can provide, but for who I am. Do you know how rare that is? LeBron leaned into her touch. I can't give you fancy dinners or vacations or... I don't want those things. I want this. Saturday parks. Burnt rice. Coloring books. I want movie nights on this couch and Zoe falling asleep between us. I want real. This is as real as it gets, LeBron whispered. And then he kissed her. It was soft, tentative, tasting of coffee and hope and 3 years of loneliness finally ending. Maria's hands slid into his hair, pulling him closer, and LeBron wrapped his arms around her waist like she might disappear if he let go. When they broke apart, both were crying. Stay, LeBron said. Tonight. Just stay. Maria nodded. They moved to the couch, LeBron lying back, Maria curling against his chest. His heartbeat was steady beneath her ear, a rhythm she wanted to memorize. Tell me something nobody knows, Maria whispered. LeBron was quiet for a moment. Sometimes I stand outside Zoe's door at night and just listen to her breathe, because I'm terrified I'll wake up and she'll be gone too. That I'll lose her like I lost Keisha. Maria squeezed his hand. You won't. I promise. Tell me something nobody knows, he echoed. I'm scared that when you find out who I really am, the full picture, the money, the empire, you'll see me differently. That this will break. LeBron tilted her chin up. I already know you're someone important. I see it in the way you carry yourself. And I don't care about the money, Maria. I care about the woman who sits in sandboxes with my daughter. The woman who laughs at my terrible jokes. The woman who's here right now in my arms. Promise me something, Maria said. Anything. Promise me that no matter what happens, no matter what you learn about me, you'll remember this moment. Remember that what we have is real. I promise, LeBron said, sealing it with a kiss to her forehead. They fell asleep like that, two wounded souls finding shelter in each other, unaware that the world outside was about to invade their fragile peace. It started with a photograph. LeBron was at the construction site, eating lunch from a crumpled paper bag, when his coworker Miguel dropped a newspaper on the table. Yo, isn't this your girl? LeBron looked down and his world tilted. The headline screamed, Billionaire CEO Maria Langston closes $2.3 billion merger. Youngest woman to crack Forbes top 50. And there she was, Maria, his Maria, in a power suit, standing in front of Langston Enterprises Tower, looking every bit the untouchable titan he'd never imagined her to be. His hands shook as he read, Maria Langston, 38, self-made billionaire and founder of Langston Enterprises, continues her unprecedented rise. Billionaire, CEO, Forbes top 50, the woman who'd sat on his couch, who'd colored with his daughter, who'd fallen asleep in his arms 2 nights ago. She'd lied. Not directly, maybe, but by omission, which felt worse. Every moment she'd spent in his world, she'd been slumming, playing pretend, and he'd been the fool who believed someone like her could actually want someone like him. Miguel whistled. Damn, bro, you bagged a billionaire? That's wild. LeBron stood abruptly, appetite gone. I gotta go. He left work early, ignoring his foreman's protests. His phone buzzed. Text from Maria. Can't wait to see you and Zoe tonight. Should I bring dinner? He didn't respond. By evening, Maria arrived at his apartment, bags of takeout in hand, completely oblivious. She knocked, smiling, and when LeBron opened the door, her smile died. What's wrong? He held up his phone, the article pulled up on the screen. When were you going to tell me? Maria's face went pale. LeBron. Don't. His voice was cold, foreign. Don't insult me with excuses. You're Maria Langston, billionaire Maria Langston. And you've been what? Playing house with the poor single dad? Was this fun for you? It's not like that. Then what is it like? He stepped back, creating distance. You let me pour my heart out to you. Let me feel like maybe I was worth something. And the whole time you were lying. I didn't lie. Maria's voice cracked. I just didn't tell you everything because I wanted you to see me. Not my bank account. That's the same thing. LeBron shouted. And from inside, Zoe called out nervously. He lowered his voice, but the anger remained. You think I'm stupid? You think I don't know how this looks? Rich woman gets her tire changed, decides the poor guy is an interesting project. Maybe makes her feel good about herself. Is that it? Was I your charity case? How dare you? Maria's eyes blazed through tears. I came here because being with you made me feel human again. Because Zoe makes me laugh and you make me feel seen. Not my money. Not my company. Me. But you still hid it. You still walked into my life, into my daughter's life, knowing I could never. His voice broke. I could never be enough for you. How could I be? You're worth billions and I can barely keep the lights on. You live in a world I can't even imagine and I'm scraping by on construction wages and diner tips. What future did you think we had? I thought we had us. Maria whispered. There is no us. There's you in your glass tower and me down here trying to survive. And the gap between those two places is too big, Maria. I can't cross it. Zoe appeared in the hallway, clutching her stuffed bear, tears streaming down her face. Daddy, why are you yelling at Miss Maria? LeBron's heart shattered. He knelt down. Go to your room, baby girl. But now, Zoe. She ran, sobbing. The sound cut through both of them. Maria wiped her eyes, voice shaking. I never meant to hurt you. Or her. I thought if you got to know me first, the money wouldn't matter. But it does matter. Because you could have told me. You could have trusted me. But you didn't. Which means you never really believed in this either. LeBron stood, exhaustion replacing anger. You should go. LeBron, please. Go, Maria. Back to your world. Where you belong. Maria stood frozen, every instinct screaming to fight, to stay, to fix this. But the look in his eyes told her she'd already lost. She set the takeout bags down gently. For what it's worth, I love you, both of you, and that was never a lie. LeBron said nothing. Maria walked to her car, climbed in, and sat there as tears she'd held back for years finally broke free. Through the apartment window, she saw LeBron collapse onto the couch, head in his hands. She'd built an empire but lost the only thing that mattered. She drove away, leaving her heart in a cramped apartment in a neighborhood she'd never belonged to. Inside, Zoe crawled into LeBron's lap. Is Miss Maria coming back? LeBron held his daughter tight, his own tears falling into her hair. I don't know, baby. I don't know. But the silence in the apartment was deafening, and they both felt Maria's absence like a missing limb. Two people who'd found each other against impossible odds, now shattered by the very world that had kept them apart all along. 3 days passed like 3 years. LeBron went through the motions. Work, dinner, bedtime stories, but everything felt hollow. Zoe barely spoke, her usual brightness dimmed. She'd asked about Maria 17 times. By the 18th, LeBron stopped counting. Did I do something wrong, Daddy? Zoe whispered one night as he tucked her in. No, baby. You didn't do anything wrong. Then why did she leave? LeBron had no answer that wouldn't break them both. Sometimes grown-ups mess things up. It's not your fault. But Zoe's eyes, so much like Keisha's, held accusation he couldn't escape. You made her leave. I heard you yelling. The words hit like a fist. Zoe. I liked her, Daddy. She made you smile again. Like before Mommy died. Zoe's lip trembled. Don't you want to be happy? LeBron's chest cracked open. He pulled Zoe close, breathing in her shampoo, cheap, strawberry-scented, and felt the weight of his pride crushing them both. I do want to be happy, baby girl. I don't know how. After she fell asleep, LeBron sat in the dark living room, staring at the spot where Maria had curled against him just days ago. His phone sat on the coffee table, silent. No texts, no calls. She'd respected his demand for space, and he hated it. Miguel's words from the construction site echoed. You bagged a billionaire? That's wild. But that wasn't it, was it? Maria wasn't a prize or a conquest. She was a woman who'd sat in his apartment and laughed at his terrible jokes, who'd helped Zoe with homework, who'd cried in his arms and called him strong when the world called him broken. "I wanted you to see me, not my bank account," she'd said. He'd been so focused on what she hadn't told him that he'd ignored what she had shown him. Her loneliness, her vulnerability, the way she looked at Zoe like she was precious, the way she looked at him like he mattered. LeBron picked up his phone. No new messages. But there was the article still pulled up. He read it again, really read it this time. Maria Langston built her empire from nothing, starting in a garage with maxed-out credit cards. From nothing. Like him. Known for her ruthless business tactics, those close to her describe a woman haunted by isolation, trading connection for success. Haunted by isolation. Like him. They weren't from different worlds. They were survivors of the same war, just different battlefields. "I'm an idiot," he whispered to the empty room. 53 floors above the city, Maria stood at her penthouse window, watching the lights blur through tears that wouldn't stop falling. Her assistant had called 4 times. Her board was demanding a meeting. A major investor was threatening to pull out, and she couldn't bring herself to care. What was the point of an empire if she ruled it alone? Her phone sat on the marble counter, silent. She typed 100 messages to LeBron and deleted them all. "I'm sorry. Please talk to me. I love you. I miss Zoe." But he'd told her to go back to her world. And she had. This cold, sterile penthouse that cost more than most people made in a lifetime. Empty rooms filled with expensive furniture and zero warmth. She'd never felt poorer. A memory surfaced. Zoe's laughter as they built sandcastles. LeBron's rough hands gentle in hers. The way his apartment, cramped and worn, had felt more like home than anywhere she'd ever lived. "I gave up the wrong thing," Maria whispered. Her phone buzzed. Her heart leapt, but it was just Jeremy with another crisis. She ignored it. Instead, she pulled up her contacts and stared at LeBron's name. Her finger hovered over the call button. What would she even say? "I'm sorry I'm rich? I'm sorry I wanted you to love me for me?" But then she remembered his face. The hurt, the betrayal, the walls slamming back up. Maybe she'd waited too long. Maybe some breaks couldn't be fixed. Her doorbell rang. Maria froze. It was nearly midnight. No one came here unannounced. She walked to the door, checked the monitor, and her breath stopped. LeBron stood in her hallway, looking terrified and determined in equal measure. He wore the same jacket from the night he'd changed her tire, his hair messy like he'd been running his hands through it. In his arms, bundled in a blanket, was Zoe. Awake, nervous, clutching her stuffed bear. Maria's hands shook as she opened the door. They stared at each other across the threshold. Two people who'd built walls to survive, now desperate to tear them down. "I'm sorry," LeBron said, voice rough. "I was scared. Scared that I'm not enough, that I can't give you what you deserve, that you'd realize you made a mistake slumming it with a guy like me. So I pushed you away before you could leave on your own." "LeBron, let me finish, please." He swallowed hard. "Zoe asked me tonight if I wanted to be happy, and the answer is yes. But I can't be happy without you. I don't care about the money, Maria. I care that you saw me when I was invisible, that you loved my daughter like she was yours, that you made me feel like I mattered." Tears streamed down Maria's face. "You do matter. You both do. More than anything." Zoe lifted her head. "Miss Maria? Are you still sad?" Maria knelt down. "A little, sweetheart. But seeing you makes me feel better." "Daddy's sorry," he yelled, Zoe said solemnly. "He cried after you left. A lot." LeBron's face flushed, but he didn't deny it. Maria stood, meeting his eyes. "I'm sorry too. I should have told you everything from the beginning. I was just so afraid that the money would change things, that you'd see me differently." "I do see you differently now," LeBron said, and Maria's heart sank until he continued. "I see someone who fought just as hard as me to survive. Someone who built something from nothing. Someone who's lonely in a penthouse the same way I'm lonely in my apartment. I see someone brave enough to risk it all for connection." He stepped closer. "I see the woman I love." Maria's sob broke free. "I love you too. Both of you. So much." "Then let's stop running," LeBron whispered. "From each other. From this. Let's choose us." Maria kissed him, tasting salt and hope and second chances. Zoe giggled between them, and they pulled her into the embrace. 3 broken pieces finding wholeness together. The night was quiet, the kind that carried the hush of second chances. LeBron stood at his front door, heart hammering as headlights cut across his small yard. For a long moment he didn't move. Part of him wanted to turn away, to retreat back into the safety of his solitude. But then, the car door opened, and Maria stepped out. No chauffeur, no designer suit, just her, jeans, soft sweater, hair loose in the wind. Her eyes found his, uncertain but full of something raw and unguarded. LeBron, her voice trembled. I didn't come here to fix anything. I came to be honest. He said nothing. The words he'd rehearsed, accusations, defenses, anger, died in his throat. I didn't tell you who I was, she continued, stepping closer. Because I didn't want you to see the CEO. I wanted you to see me. For the first time in years, I wanted to be just Maria. LeBron looked down, jaw tight. You could have trusted me. I know, she whispered, and I should have, but I was scared. My whole life has been about control, about never letting anyone have the power to hurt me. And then you, her voice broke. You helped me with a tire and somehow broke every wall I've built. Silence stretched between them. The sound of wind through the trees, Zoe's laughter faintly echoing from inside the house. It all felt fragile, suspended. LeBron finally met her eyes. Do you know what it felt like? To see your face on that TV? To realize the woman who made me feel like I mattered was a billionaire pretending to be ordinary. He swallowed hard. It felt like a joke I didn't know I was part of. Tears welled in her eyes. It was never a joke. You're the only person who's ever looked at me like I wasn't a headline. You made me feel human again. The words hit something deep inside him. He remembered her laughter at the park, how Zoe had leaned against her shoulder, the warmth that had filled his home when she was there. None of that had been fake. He knew it. Beneath his pride, beneath his fear, there was truth. LeBron took a breath. I was scared too, he admitted softly. Scared that if you knew how little I had, you'd walk away. Scared that a man like me couldn't belong in a world like yours. Maria stepped closer until they were inches apart. You belong wherever love is, she said. And love? She reached for his hand, trembling. Love is here, if you'll let it be. For a long, suspended heartbeat, neither moved. Then LeBron exhaled, the tension in his shoulders melting away. He squeezed her hand, eyes glistening. You reminded me what matters, Maria. You saw me when I didn't even see myself. A small, tearful smile curved her lips. You saved me too, LeBron. Weeks later, the sun rose over a modest but lively auto repair shop, Zoe's Garage, painted in bright blue letters. Inside, LeBron worked beside a few new employees, laughter echoing as he fixed engines with a renewed sense of pride. Across the lot, Maria was helping Zoe with her homework. Her heels traded for sneakers, her smile easy and unguarded. LeBron wiped his hands and walked toward them. Maria looked up, her eyes soft with warmth that no fortune could buy. He leaned down, kissed her gently, and whispered, You ready? She nodded. The 3 of them climbed into her car, Zoe in the back seat, chattering about ice cream flavors. As the car pulled onto the road, the same road where they'd first met, the sunset painted the sky gold. Maria glanced at him, her voice barely above a whisper. You know, you really did save me. LeBron smiled, fingers brushing hers on the gear shift. No, Maria, he said quietly. We saved each other. And for the first time in a long time, neither of them felt alone. Thank you so much for watching my story all the way to the end. Your support means everything. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel and drop a comment below. I'd love to hear your thoughts.